Hello everyone, it's Maddy from Create Your Future. So if you're watching this, I am currently on maternity leave and I am not available for coaching right now. But if you are interested in working with me directly and you want my specific help, I did come out with a course called Master Manifester. It does break down everything step by step in multiple categories. So if you're interested in creating your dream life, that includes SP, health, money, etc., you can work on all of those at the same time, or you can pick one and focus on that, but still have the course available to work that into other things later on if that's something you are interested in. If not, there's a lot of free content on this channel that is really helpful. We have a lot of amazing coaches and a lot of amazing advice. So I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about setting boundaries and when that would be necessary for you and if it's even necessary while manifesting something. So for example, we'll just kind of go into SP. I'll kind of go into other areas as well, but when you're setting boundaries, it usually involves a specific person, whether it be romantic or it be a platonic thing, an acquaintance, things like that. So most of the time when we are setting boundaries, it is to honor ourselves. It really has nothing to do with the other person. We're just noticing that that person is reflecting back to us something that we do not internally agree with anymore. So when I talk about setting boundaries, I know that can be confusing for some people because, in your mind, you're like, well, I can just manifest to do something else. Okay, yes and no. So here's why I mean yes, and here's why I mean no. So when you are manifesting somebody to do a specific thing, you are internally changing your perspective of that thing. And let's say that you keep getting triggered by said situation. You are going to keep creating the cycle. Therefore, you do not feel like you are honoring yourself and you may get resentful towards the other person. So this is where the boundary comes in. And this is why some people do resort to verbally setting a boundary and then physically actually aligning with it when they say the boundary to this person, because it feels like they are more in, if you want to say alignment, more attuned, however you want to phrase that, with their actual desire. And they feel like they are embodying the version of themselves that is that person that has what they want, but also doesn't settle for less at the same time, if that makes sense. So I'll kind of give you an example, right? So with SP, let's say that they are breadcrumbing you and they keep showing up very late for everything, or they cancel all the time, they never follow through. And let's say you're at the beginning of your manifesting journey. You don't have to be, beginning of the law of assumption journey, but let's just say manifesting this specific person with this specific situation that you have. So a lot of people, what they do on this journey is they will not say anything. They'll be like, it's fine, I'm manifesting my person. They're reflecting back the old story. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's just say we keep affirming, my SP is always on time. They really respect me. They love spending time with me. They drop everything and make me a priority. They're always finding any excuse to spend time with me, right? So let's just say those are a few of the things that we're affirming. And let's just say that every time we make plans with this person, they just are not following through no matter how much we affirm, right? So there might be something underlying there that we're not seeing that is not aligning with what we want. So that's when we would, kind of take a step back from the situation as well and say like, okay, I'm just going to have an inner dialogue with myself, but obviously I'm having it out loud so I can talk to you guys about it. But let's just say they keep doing that. I'm affirming all those things. I'm going to look internally right now and see what's missing. It's not that I'm doing anything wrong, but maybe there's an affirmation or something that like my mind's been trying to tell me, and I'm just not seeing it. So let's just say I have a viewpoint that all men are unreliable. So even though I'm affirming those things, I still have this belief that men are unreliable. It doesn't matter if it's my SP, it's all men, period. Because maybe I've had really bad experiences in relationships. Maybe I've had bad experiences with men in general, where they just don't show up. They're, inconsistent, whatever the story is. So even though I'm affirming those things, and that's good, I like to say that when you are going for a new state of being, here's your old state of being and here's your new state of being, right? So your old state of being has all those old stories, all the things that you believed in before, which is that, for example, men are unreliable, or like, let's just say, love isn't trustworthy, or I'm emotionally unavailable because I cannot trust that people will be there for me. The list goes on and on. But like, let's just say those are some of the stories that we have. So when you're going from an old self-concept and you start affirming a new one, here you are over here. It doesn't mean it's a long journey from this point on. It just means that everything in here can no longer be. And so there are some points, and this is not every time, I don't want to create that limiting belief within people, but not every time will this happen, but things have to shift, whether you see them in your 3D or not. And that's why sometimes we get weird behavior from people. Some people change their minds randomly. You might see what you call like the purge, or it's really just your old belief system coming up all the way and then going. But you have to stay persistent in this new version of yourself. So when you're kind of in that transitional period, especially if it's something you've been believing for a long time or something that you have really put your trust in, like you're putting your trust in something else now instead of this old belief system, and you are affirming for a new one. So this is when you will stay true to this story. This is persisting, but not everybody sees it that way. They're like, well, I'm not getting what I want, therefore I'm just going to give up. You're basically telling yourself when you give up, let's just not even focus on I'm going to manifest this specific thing. You're manifesting a new state of being, and you're manifesting essentially a new outlook on this specific situation. It has nothing to do with the actual person. It has everything to do with how you view love, how you view wealth, health, how you view yourself in relationship to other people. So when you view it that way, instead of only trying to attain your specific person or this specific thing, because that's where a lot of anxiety comes from and a lot of the inconsistency can come from. When we come from a perspective of I'm changing my concept towards this thing, because I no longer want to resonate with men are unreliable, or I can't attain the results that I want, or I'm not good enough to have my desires in life. Therefore, your life's just going to continue being this old blah that you had right here, that clearly you stumbled across law of assumption for a reason at the right opportune moment when you were ready for your change. So that being said, let's just take the whole situation out of it, because it's just a circumstance. It doesn't actually matter. It's about you. It's not about the other person outside of you. They will not change until this version of you becomes this person. So when you start seeing it that way, instead of I have to change them, it has nothing to do with them. This old version of you literally created that version of them, whether you like it or not. So they're just reflecting back to you their beliefs. Your beliefs in them. They're reflecting it back to you. But when you go into this state, they have no other choice but to conform. You are not the same person. Therefore, they will not be the same person. So that's why I always advocate for 80% yourself, 20% the thing outside of you, because it's not actually them you're trying to change. It is your concept of the situation and or the whole thing, right? And the person. So okay, this is where the boundaries come in. So here's your old state of being. This is the really crappy version of your SP showing up, and you recognizing it and you getting triggered all the time by it because you don't feel like this person is showing up for you. They're being inconsistent. They might be kind of being a butthead, I'm not going to lie. And you're just not resonating with it anymore. You're like, wow, I really do not deserve that kind of behavior. Like, I've been working on my concept of relationships, of myself in relation to this person, what I know I deserve and what I know that they're going to show up as. So therefore, I'm going to stand confident in this new self-concept, but this is when the boundary comes in. When you're kind of in that weird transitional period, a lot of people don't like sitting in their old reality, just being passive about everything. You're still living your life. So even though you're manifesting this person, I want you to ask yourself this question, and this is where the boundaries come in, is would I be putting up with this behavior? Would I be engaging with this? Would I be this passive if I wasn't consciously manifesting this person? The answer is probably no. And if it's a yes, we need to reevaluate. So with that in mind, if I wasn't actually trying to actively manifest this person, they were coming up, yes, I can blame myself and say I created this, but some people do not resonate with that. Even though they're reflecting back our beliefs, we don't have to come from a victim mentality and say like, well, they did this to me, poor me. But we also don't have to come from a place of, I'm a horrible manifester. What's wrong with me? I'm like, clearly something is wrong with me since I created this. There's a happy medium. There is always a happy medium instead of just blaming yourself, putting yourself down. Because I have come across way too many people, and it's okay. This is where we're going to shift this perspective right now, is that they will start blaming themselves because they feel like they created it, and they'll create a really unhealthy viewpoint in their mind towards manifesting. And I will see them quite literally put themselves down every day and create a really bad self-concept and be too hard on themselves when it comes to shifting their perspective. It's like it's a chore. Manifesting should be easy. It should be something where you notice a pattern, and instead of sitting here like, oh, I created that, let's shift it a little bit and say, okay, I understand that was a part of my old belief system. It's okay. I'm shifting that right now. I'm actively putting in the work in my mindset to actually shift the way I think about this. It is not my fault. Therefore, if somebody is showing up incorrectly in my reality, I don't have to settle for that, considering I'm already in the space, and this is where living in the end comes from. I'm already in the space that I am loved, prioritized, and pursued. I am amazing. I am perfect exactly the way that I am. I don't have to actually do anything when it comes to changing that person. They're going to reflect it back to me. I don't have to lift a finger. And I'm going to get all the ideas of inspired action that I need to go down the right path towards getting that manifestation. I don't actually have to do anything. So when we come from that perspective, instead of beating ourselves up, blaming ourselves, and then actually becoming a victim to that, funny enough, we're shifting our perspective to, that was a part of my old self-concept. I'm not going to be mad at myself for something that's old that showed up. I'm going to shift my perspective, but I'm also going to allow myself to be human. And if I need to react to it, that's fine. I am purging also my old thoughts and feelings towards this thing. So if it's still triggering, I still know that I need to persist in the new story of this, right? So what a boundary would look like when it comes from going from old self-concept to new. So we're going back to the whole breadcrumbing thing. I know it's kind of going around full circle a little bit, but let's just say that they're being inconsistent, and let's say that we actually say something this time about it, like, and we're still keeping up with their mindset, but we're actually interacting with our 3D, right? Because we're human and that's what we do. So let's just say I actually say something to my SP and I'm like, hey, I haven't really said anything in the past because like, I didn't really know you well enough, or, whatever the story is. And I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but it is important to me that like when we set a time, we actually start there, because I view my time as very valuable, and I feel the same about your time. Like our time in collection together is important. So I'm going to say that's a boundary. You don't have to be mean when you set boundaries. That's not what boundary means. It says speaking your truth, being, valid with yourself and your feelings, also recognizing that they are just important as you are. You are on a 50-50 plane right now. You are not putting them on a pedestal. You guys are equally in a great romantic, loving relationship. In a healthy relationship, you both contribute equally to it. That is how a healthy relationship works. So when we're keeping that in mind, I spoke my truth about my needs. Yes, I said it outwardly. So I'm going to wait for my person to respond. So I'll go from a really negative one, and then I'll show you what happens when I have a really positive response, right? So let's just say that my person gets really offended, like just because I said that, and is like, you know what? I'm so sorry that I have stuff going on. I have all these things that I have doing, and I'm sitting here spending time with you. So what if I'm 30 minutes late every time, blah, 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 right? So even though I respectfully stood my ground and said what I needed out of the relationship, they reacted poorly. So I'm not going to be a victim to this situation. I'm going to give it back to them and be like, that is on them. I know that's a little bit controversial in the law of assumption community, but I'm giving it back. Sorry, I'm not taking that on. Then I'm going to recognize what behavior they are reflecting back to me. They're reflecting back to me that I'm not a priority. They're too busy for me. And they could not be bothered with respecting my boundary. That's the negative things that are being shown to me right now. So therefore, I'm going to create some intentions around that going forward. So how I would react to that in the moment, there are times you're going to react poorly. We will also go over that after this example. It's okay. So let's just say I am reacting very well. And I'm like, okay, I understand. And I do really appreciate that we do spend time with each other. I'm still going to keep my boundary, even though they said this. But I still stand firm on the fact that I respect both of our time, because both of our time is important. And I would really like it and prefer that you would meet me halfway. And let's just say they're still being mean. You just say, okay, I understand, but I'm still going to stand firm on my boundary. If you can't meet that, then this relationship is not going to go far. So I really enjoy you. I appreciate you, but I need my needs met as well. Right? So you don't have to break up with the person. You don't have to, this is a really dramatic, example, but at the same time, this happens, especially when we're going from old self-concept to new. I'm not going to fight with them. I'm not going to be a victim, but I'm also still going to stand my ground and my boundary that I would like for them to show up on time. And I'm going to affirm, no matter what they're saying, that I am a priority. He always shows up on time for me. And relationships are safe, because we're going back to the original story of, relationships aren't safe. I'm emotionally unavailable because this happened to me. I would say I'm emotionally available for this relationship, and therefore, because I am, my partner is, and they would do anything to make me happy, and they would do anything to make this relationship equal. So we're just going to go down the line step by step of what that looks like, but I'm also adding in a lot of self-concept and then adding in the reason why. So it's like what I just gave an example is he always shows up for me because I deserve it, because I'm an amazing person, because I'm worth value. My time is valuable. Therefore, because I think my time is valuable, I'm going to create that they think my time is valuable. So not only am I going to instill that belief in myself that my time is valuable, I want everybody to treat me that way too and view it that way. So we're kind of, getting how intentions can work more powerfully. So let's just say it goes really well. You already set your boundary and they're like, you know what, you're right. I didn't even recognize that was happening. I'm really sorry. And you say, it's okay. I just wanted to voice my boundary and I want you to feel safe in this relationship to do the same. And then you guys, hug it out. The change happens. You don't always have to verbally say something, but in that moment, that was your inspired action. You didn't want to be passive anymore. You felt like by honoring yourself, you were setting a boundary. And it doesn't have to be mean. You don't have to get into an argument. It doesn't have to be this big, blown out, drawn out thing. You're just saying what your needs are. And you're still going to affirm that it's going to work out for you, and all the other things that you've been affirming, it's okay. But let's just say you react really badly. Let's say you guys get into a huge fight. It's okay. It doesn't mess anything up. It just means that you might have to take a step back for a second and recognize why you're feeling so triggered, why you're feeling angry, and really work on those things. So that could look like, well, they're not meeting my needs, therefore, like, I'm a victim to this situation. That's why I'm getting so angry, because I feel like I'm not creating the results that I want, right? So that's when you would take a step back, affirm, I always get the results that I want. People show up for me exactly the way they want them to, and everything is conformed in my favor. So if you're really standing in that knowing, you're not really going to be triggered that much, even if your person isn't showing up exactly the way that you want. And that's when you just recognize, if they're not showing up right now exactly the way that I want, I don't want to fight with the old version of them. There is no point in fighting with someone who hasn't conformed completely in my 3D exactly the way that I want them to. I'm fighting with a hologram. I'm fighting with somebody that hasn't fully conformed to my new state of being. So why would I want to fight with them when I don't resonate with that version of them anymore? That's not a thing, I'm just going to basically be reaffirming right then and there that they're this old crappy version that I didn't like in the first place, and that I'm trying to change. So it makes no sense for me to keep fighting with somebody who isn't what I want, right? So that's when you keep affirming that the people around you, especially your SP, have conformed, and because you deserve it, because you're amazing, because you should be treated as such, yada yada, whatever it is that you say, and therefore go in the knowing and living in the end that, because I know law of assumption works, and I've seen so many success stories, and I've seen things shift in my favor all the time, I'm going to know that this person will conform. It doesn't matter when or how. I don't have to figure that out. None of my business. But I'm also not going to fight with this old version of them, because it doesn't make a difference. So they're going to show up exactly the way that I want them to. But if they're showing up as this old crappy version, I'm not going to argue with you, but I am going to set a boundary if I feel like that's what I need to do in that moment to honor myself. So if you're not going to sit there and take that kind of behavior, if you weren't consciously manifesting, I would say don't settle for it just because you are manifesting. And I don't make the mistake of, they texted me at 2 a.m. saying, hey, you up, when you're trying to manifest marriage or a committed relationship. And they're reflecting back to you, oh my gosh, there's movement. They're saying you up at 2 a.m. That's not something you wanted anyways. Are you really going to settle for that? Like the booty call? Or are you going to be like, I'm putting my phone down. They're going to conform exactly the way I want them to, which is a committed relationship. I'm not even going to answer this message until it is 8 a.m. because that is my boundary. I don't have to say it to them. I'm just not going to answer them past 9:30 p.m. So that's your boundary. You don't have to always say it to them unless you feel like it's honoring yourself. But that's another form of boundary that you could have is I'm not texting anybody, including my SP, past 9:30. I'm not a booty call. I'm a high value person that deserves commitment, and that's where I'm shifting to. So therefore, someone that's high value that wants commitment is not going to settle for a booty call at 2 a.m. from their person, if this kind of gives you the perspective of setting boundaries. So you're not going to answer. You're going to answer them in the morning saying hey, are you okay? I was sleeping. They'd be like, yeah, I just wanted to see if you want to come over. I would love to spend time with you and I'd love to hang out with you, but I actually don't really have time to do that, nor am I interested in a friends with benefits situation. But thank you for the offer. If you're ever interested in coffee, lunch, or whatever you want to throw out there, I would love to meet up and catch up. That's what you would have said if you weren't consciously manifesting them. Are you really going to settle for less in your reality? No. Just because they're showing movement doesn't mean you have to drop everything and put them on a pedestal again and totally unravel everything that you just did with your mindset because, oh my gosh, they texted me at 2 a.m. You're putting them on a pedestal. You're basically making them more important than you and telling them that it's okay if you text me at 2 a.m. I will literally, quite frankly, bark when you say bark at this point. Like, no, stop it. Don't do that. You are a high value person. You want a committed relationship. Stop settling for less. Period. So that concludes this video. If you have more questions about it, comment down below. I love reading your comments because it gives me more ideas on what to talk about and what you guys actually want to hear from me as far as perspective and what to do in regards to your specific situations. So comment down below. I say this in every video, but also comment the things that you are manifesting. I love intending with you and that all of you are successful and able to get what you want. Even if I'm not commenting back, I still intend with you guys. So yeah, and then we are still having a contest. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, but if you would like to know more about it, it is in the description box down below. If you are interested in my course, you can also find that in the description box down below as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I intend that everybody that needed to hear this video, that needed this advice, this guidance, would find it at the right moment. And I intend that all of you guys have a new perspective on what boundaries mean and what it means to consciously manifest somebody with grace and honoring yourself, and that all of you guys get the right ideas on how to manifest your specific person. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.